So I was actually back from a conference, and one of the volunteers in the conference is a university student. And she came and then asked me the questions: is that hard to be a woman in technology? Do I ever feel like I'm an outsider? Do I have any tip and advice? Because she really interested in computer science. However, she wasn't sure if her gender could be a barrier to entry for her to get into the tech industry. So today, let's meet Kim. She is a software developer based in Toronto, Canada, and listen to her perspective being a woman in technology. Because when I was younger and when I wasn't sure if doing something in the right choice for me or not, seeing other people, coming from the same background as me, being so successful in that specific occupation that I want to get into really inspired me to start my own journey as well. And this is also the first video in the series She Can Code, in which I hope to inspire both men and women to obviously, start coding, learn how to code, as well as to remove all the stereotype out there that only men can code, and coding is not an occupation for women.
Hello everyone, my name is Kim. I'm currently a full stack developer based in Toronto. My specialization is mobile app development with a focus in React Native, which is a cross-platform for iOS and Android. And specialized in backend for Django, which is a framework written in Python. That is, in the morning, I work for a company. We are an agency working different clients from US or Canada. Outside of work, I'm also a content creator because I see a lot of inspiration from people, especially Liliana. Before I ask her a lot of questions before I become a developer, and I think that is really important to actually build a community and share things that people always wondering. If any question come up, it's good to share different perspective from people who already experience how the career transition over. So that's the goal.
How did you get to become a mobile app developer? Did you learn React Native on your own? And why React Native but not other technologies? Because in computer science, there's so many majors like data science, data engineering, web development, etc. So why mobile development?
So I think that is a really interesting question. I think I just came up with mobile app development because I'm really curious about how app is built, and especially as a young generation, I'm really interested in the startup space and understand everything is built from scratch. So looking for technologies that easy to implement for a smaller size company and less cost to build up. I think React Native is a perfect place to be. I take some courses online, but also has a private tutor from Vietnam and some of my mentors, which helped me to learn the skill. But I think majority of time I also have to spend a lot of time like do my own research and learning JavaScript from scratch, because like doesn't go to university is really a big challenge, like mentally and also the knowledge base. So there's a lot of gap from there. I need to like try to figure out everything from the beginning.
Okay, that sounds really good. So why technology? I know that you you switched your career from an actuary to tech. So why did you make that move?
Yeah, in college I learned actuarial science, which is similar to statistics. I actually didn't have a chance to become an actuary because I always been an auditor. That is my first intern as a Canadian company based in Winnipeg, and some of the projects they initiate about data analytics, and I just raise up my hand and say if I can give it a try to learn to try the projects to build an analytics platform and dashboard. So that is how I get started. At first, I'm not sure whether it's the right career for me because tech is kind of challenging with having that background from university. And after being in the project, like do everything by myself, starting the project and learn the skill at work. So I think I get really interested in that because it's always cultivate my curiosity about different things, how to we do. So after a couple of months, I think it might be time to switch a career as well because I'm still young. I'm like nothing to lose right now. And I have a lot of friends working in tech, like Google and like Facebook. So I asked the experience, was it really hard to become a developer and see a lot of like technologies kind of changing. So, and especially like COVID hit, which gave us a lot of thought, what we should do with our life. And so it gave me a really big push to switch a career at the time.
Yeah, and have you ever regretted?
I don't think so. I think I really appreciate the time that I transitioned over, and it's actually really rewarding career in my opinion. Although I'm kind of quit my job for around like 4 months to start all over again. It's just basically my university degree doesn't count anymore at this point. But I think in tech, I was able to like because it involves a lot of self-learning, so I have more time to think about what I actually want in this career instead of just following what is a stereotype like an accountant or like an auditor should do on a daily basis. But because tech is limited, I am extremely extroverted as well, so having that conversation with developers kind of keep me interested in the conversation. And they one day one of the developers in my old company, he was like, I don't think you should be an auditor, you should be like a developer. And I think that is when the time really clicked. And yeah, I'm always happy being a developer for now.
Yeah, you mentioned something really interesting. That really different than what other people think about a typical developer. When you talk about software developer, people often think about a guy sitting at the desk doing programming 24/7, super messy, eat, sleep, and play everything on his desk. And he obviously really shy, antisocial, extremely introvert. Did you see any barrier at all? Did you have issue connecting with your co-workers because most of them are introverts, or that's just a stereotype about developer? They're not really that introvert, but people just think they're introvert. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because people always think they don't usually talk with other people and just coding all the time. But I think it's not really accurate because I think the developer, it involves a lot of problem solving skill. Like for example, when a website crashes, a developer has to communicate with the client to detect what is happening and talk with different people from the team, like what is the timeline I need to finish the task. And I think like being an introvert is definitely a really positive things because when you do coding and learning coding, you need 100% focus. So usually one introvert usually good at spend time by themselves and don't have to have a lot of guidance or like a lot of opinion from people. They just focus on the task specifically. I think it's the great skill that they have, really a lot of concentration. But also introvert is, I think like some people is only introvert within the things that they're not really interested in. But if I see a lot of introverted, like when they talk about a topic that they're really passionate about, they tend to speak a lot and like share a lot, but that is like already out of scope that the personality that other people know them before. And I think doesn't matter if a person is introvert or extrovert, they can be really successful in being a software engineer because it has so many skills from communication and problem solving until the ability to like have a lot of pressure at the time just to solve the issue, because when the server crashes and everything, at every second that the server has a problem is a big problem for our companies.
from what I understand about introvert and extrovert is that if you're an extrovert, you need to talk with people, you need to communicate with people in person to get the energy for yourself. So given that, your current position, a lot of those are working from home, how do you get over the feeling of isolation, loneliness, because you don't get to interact with a lot of people and get the energy?
Yeah, that's really good question. I think I sometimes I feel kind of isolated because I mainly working from home.
Mm,
But what I try to overcome is try to have different conversation with people on my team, like check in with them once a day or like twice a week about a certain topic that is
mm,
not work related, so that we can keep an energy around the team. And also, we normally has a fun time team with the coworker that we work in to play some games and to get other people better.
mm,
So I think balance out between working remotely and going to the office is really important, because if I just work by myself alone, I will feel really isolated and may feel lonely a lot. But then if I talk with people a certain topic, even if it's just like chit chat on Slack, you still feel you are very belong to a team and like really get energetic. You just have to
yeah,
find the right balance.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. That sounds good. If you have the time machine to go back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
I think I would chose to be a startup founder. uh, that I would love to learn coding earlier stage, like even before I was 18. I think that is not a mistake, but just how we experience life differently. When I was young, I think tech is something really difficult to learn. And then my family is kind of asking me to learn coding as well, but I was so afraid, didn't try a
Mm,
coding class. But then if I have that opportunity, definitely I would learn coding. Just get to know what it is and see if I'm interested in. If I am, then kind of build a prototype and pitch my business idea to investor. That is just my always my dream goal, and I think that's the goal in the futures for me too.
yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. Okay. So if you have a product that you want to pitch, definitely let me know. I should see if I can help by any means. Yeah, you mentioned something interesting about, you got into coding and then in the past you kept like always wanted to, be able to build your own product. Uh, did you ever do anything like that before? And
Yeah.
if you did, yeah, okay. How did that go? How was the experience like?
So I think in my university, I joined a lot of like startup competition.
Mm,
So in the team, we need some, because it's like a tech startup competition. So we need developers and also business background and the person who pitched the idea. And I think what is one of the skill that we lack in the team is a developer who know how to just make a prototype of product. And I think that is where the skill gap is. Like, I think it would be
mm,
really important if I know coding. Doesn't matter if the app is successful or not, but just try to be a prototype and share it with the audience really definitely help. At the time, we picked a startup in Winnipeg. It was about a Chrome extension that blocked different website that we don't want to see on our app on Facebook, and
mm,
we want a third place in that. And I think at the time, if I know some of like programming language in Python, a recommendation or like a simple Chrome extension development, definitely is gonna hit like a huge push for me. So that is how I started interested in tech and see how I can build an app in really short period of time.
mm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The next question also relating to your past. So what has been the best career decision that you ever made?
Hmm. I think the best career is obviously is that follow what I think right at the time. Like
Mm,
so when I 2 years ago I studied in Canada. I was an international student, so getting a permanent resident is the first priority. So that always picking a career to choose and just like quit everything and start from scratch, going to school is gonna be really difficult because of the status and permit in Canada. So I think what I would do at the time is, but I still quit my job, although I didn't have a permanent resident, and follow my heart just to learn coding and see how
I
it
remember
goes.
that.
So I think that's the best choice for the past 2 to 3 years that I made. I'm still really passionate and like really addicted to coding at some point. Even afterward, I still code a lot, like personal projects. And that is like the best career decision. So right now I was able to do different things, like share my thought on tech, and like I talking to you and talking with fellow that has the same interest. Which is in the past, if I'm an auditor, we was able to share, but because it's like a lot of regulation and in place, we were not able to share anything outside of the scope of the work.
Yeah.
So it's very challenging as well.
Yeah. So we talk about, if you have the time machine to go back in time, what would you do? We talk about your best career decision so far. Now let's talk about, so I did ask you the question, have you ever regret the decision moving from auditing to tech? You said no. But is there any decision that you regret making? In other words, what has been the worst career decision that you ever made?
I think I'm like one of the regret that I made in the past. I think is the more of like choosing a career based on peer pressure rather than your own personal interest. Because when I were in school, all of my friends around me is actually learning finance and like accounting, like statistics. So usually like a general path of everyone going into. So that is where we have a peer pressure. We try to compare with other, how they define success in a place and choosing a career based on that. And I follow it for like 4 or 5 years in school and in professionally. But then after I moved to another city, like moved to Toronto from Manitoba, I get a really fresh perspective of like I'm having to chase my own dream instead of chasing other people path and like the peer pressure. That is really real, especially because we're so young. We don't have a lot of own thought, so we tend to consult other people what we should do instead of what we want to do. So I think that is the regret that I had in the past.
Yeah, that's a good one. So we talk a lot about the past. Now let's move on to the future. So within the next 10 years, what would your prediction for the tech industry? Is that gonna going up or is gonna going down? And what's gonna be the most popular field in the tech industry?
I think for the next 10 years, if I'm still in the field, obviously I think I will. There's gonna be a lot of change in tech, obviously, just to adapt to a current market situation, especially right now. Doesn't matter what you do on every day, there's a tech present. You go in the past, maybe we go to a supermarket. We have to go to the supermarket and spend 1 hour to pick the grocery. But right now with the new technology, which is a mobile app, you will be able to buy everything online and just pick it up, which save a lot of time. So although recently there's quite a bit of downtrend in tech, there's a lot of news about layoff and stuff. But I think in the long term, it still stay for a better like efficient at the workplace or in the daily life, especially that because building a tech has a huge cost in developments, but then it saves a lot of people time. So even right now, I use a lot of application to save my personal time. If there's some day that I'm really busy, I just don't go out for grocery and food. I just order it, and right away I can save literally an hour's cooking. So moving forward, I think the most popular tech will be like AI and machine learning, how it's adapt to a smaller company. Because right now, a lot of those technologies is applied mainly for big corporation. But down the road, I think for smaller enterprise and even startup, they're gonna have a lot of bigger space to make a better prediction to see what product the regular consumer wants, and have a better cost strategy expand around their company and how we should optimize our daily life. Because the problem with our current society right now is we have so much stuff we want to do, but we don't have enough time.
Yeah, that's true. How about blockchains? Because obviously, with the advancement of things like machine learning, there's gonna be a lot of concern around data privacy. There are a lot of concern around, fraud. People try to steal your personal information and things like that. What do you think about blockchain? And do you invest in Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think I follow the market, but I don't invest in Bitcoin or NFT because I just, as a developer, I think I'm more interested in the technology itself, but not the investment side, because always we know there's a lot of risk. If a developer put in the wrong code, there's going to be a lot of fraudulent activity behind the blockchain, even because I take a course around the blockchain. From a developer perspective, there's still a lot of gap, but I think moving forward, if there's a lot of regulation behind the government involvement in this blockchain space, it is help the customer and investors feel safer, like what they invested in. Because right now it's still a really it's not highly regulated, so there's still some risk there. I know a lot of my friends who invest in blockchain and NFT. Sometimes they make a lot, but when they lose money, they lose a lot of their capitals.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's move on to the last question today. So if someone try to get into the technology space, you touched on this a little bit. What would your advice for them be? Another one is it the right time and the right place for a woman to be in technology?
Yeah, I think one of the 5 advice that I would tell anyone who interested in tech, first of all, they need to find a career path in tech that they actually interested in, because in tech, it's not about just development, being a developer, but there's some other career paths, just as being a project manager when you manage projects and decide on the task to different people on a project, and product owner where you design different the application, how it should look like from a customer perspective. The first thing is to do diligent research what they want to get into. I think the second point that they should is like, do they love being in tech or just follow the crowd? Because it might follow them for the next 10 years if they're not really interested in tech, and they just force themselves into the path that they don't enjoy. It might be a really downside down the hills, because working in tech, there's another terminology, there's a lot of burnout, because people start tech because they want a higher salary and income, but if they don't enjoy it and they don't have the patience to follow this path, it's gonna give themselves really stressful time afterward. The third advice that I would give them is talk to people like me and Liliana, just to discuss what is the opportunity and whether what's the fact about tech that they really enjoy talking about, or what make a woman feel like, what do you feel working in tech? I think I feel really special being a woman on a team, because not a lot of female developers on the team. So given a lot of opinion and different perspective into a problem, that make me stand out really quickly as well. I think the 4 advice I would give them is they have to find a community that support their goals. Doesn't matter what you do, you have to find the right people that you can discuss the situation, or even share what you concern and what you worry about. Just sharing idea and bounce around is gonna help them to have really meaningful conversation as well. And the last piece is they need to follow what they really like. That's important, like follow your heart. At first, learning coding might be really difficult and frustrated, but once you get over like the beginner level, that is where you feel more confident and build up your skill later and be really successful in this career path.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Thank you. So I know I mentioned that was the last question. However, you touched on something really interesting that I'd like to follow up on. So you said don't get into technology because you like to follow the crowd, because you like to make a lot of money. So my question for you then, because there are two type of people working in technology. One group is that they really passionate about technology. They would, spend every single second waking moment of their life just to do coding. Another group, big believer in the concept of financial independence, retire early. So they get into tech, working for a few years for a really big company, and then become a millionaire, and then retire. So what's your plan? Are you gonna want to work forever? Are you gonna ever retire? So what is your dream when it comes to retirement life?
Yeah, that's a good question. A hard question to answer basically. We barely know what we're gonna become in the next couple of years. Things always change. But I think, like you mentioned, there's usually two types of people, and I think I belong to the first category. Obviously, like money to everyone is really important. Is because when you have more money, your qualities of life is improved a lot. From health perspective, you can afford and like take care of your health mentally and physically, support your family. So I don't think that is a negative thing of like making a lot of money to retire early. But I think is that as a person choosing a career or working in tech, they have to balance both things out. Some people like to move job to job really quickly, less than a year, to get a higher salary. But then after a couple of years, they might feel burned out because of that. They keep chasing the things that not really significant, important. And for myself, in the next couple of years, I would still love being a developer, but I also would love to have my own like teaching center and teaching people how coding. It can vary from being a web developer, mobile app developer, data science, or even just simply a consulting center where people can share their concern and we can listen to them and direct them to the right people that they can give different advice and opinions. So I think that is because I love to share my ideas around and helping people. Yeah, I always love teaching. Currently, I'm still teaching people coding as well, and like because that passion is really clearly on my mind every time people are talking to me. Sometimes I'm kind of obsessive with coding, but it just when you like to do a certain thing, you never feel like you're working. Just do the thing that you enjoy most.
So I hope you enjoy the conversation between myself and Kim, as well as gain some perspective about working in tech, regardless of your gender. And I would like to end this video with a quote from the book The Moment Uplift, How Empowering Women Change the World by the famous Melinda Gates, to highlight the importance of create equal opportunity for everyone in the world, regardless of their background or gender. So the quote reads as, I never held the view that women are better than men, or that the best way to improve the world is for women to gain more power than men. I think male dominance is harmful to society because dominance is harmful. It means society is governed by a false hierarchy where power and opportunity are awarded according to gender, age, wealth, and privilege, not according to skill, effort, talent, or accomplishments. When the culture of dominance is broken, it activates power in all of us. So the goal for me is not the rise of women and the fall of men. It's the rise of both women and men from a struggle for dominance to a state of partnership. If the goal is partnership between women and men, why do I put so much emphasis on women's empowerment and women's groups? My answer is that we draw strength from each other, and we often have to convince ourselves that we deserve an equal partnership before we get one. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.